Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is Ankai Media. We are your hosts. My name is Ocean Subiano.
I'm Taylor Vieira.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to give you guys our take of the newly released, fresh in the theaters movie titled Devotion. This movie stars Jonathan Majors and
Glenn Powell.
Jeez. I just refer to him as Hangman.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
He's forever Hangman.
So, but it stars those two alongside some other somewhat noticeable. We got Joe Jonas, and something Neville, right? Frick, what's his name?
Spencer
Neville. Spencer Neville, Joe Jonas, a couple other, good name actors in there. And this movie came out on Thursday. Well, Friday, technically, but for us, it's Thursday. And we watched it over the weekend, so we're going to give you guys our take. Do this in traditional fashion. Honors. Spoiler-free section. Score. Spoilers. Okay. Spoiler-free section, obviously. But, I enjoy the movie. But it kind of made me a little mad because we just got done watching a sad war movie, and then we go and watch this, and then I went and go and watch this. I'm like, well, damn. Because what I will say, ladies and gentlemen, is that I know that the war movies that we have covered on this channel, both me and Taylor have shared that we are pretty knowledgeable about America's wars and stuff. And at least for me, I didn't know this story. About this particular naval aviator from the Korean War, and I know some about the Korean War, but it really truly is America's forgotten war. Nobody really remembers it and remembers what happened. So,
the only reason I know is because I was stationed there.
Yeah, you were stationed in Korea. So, I was excited to watch this because it was a story that I didn't really know anything about. And it's about something that doesn't really get a whole lot of light shown on it. But at the same time, I knew what I was walking into. Because I knew, there's no way this just has a perfect happy ending.
No, of course not.
Because it's the Korean War. And so I don't know. It sucked because I was in there and I was like, man, I just got done watching a sad war movie. Which, by the way, if you haven't checked out our All Quiet on the Western Front episode, go check that out.
Yeah,
but
appreciate it.
I really enjoyed the movie, but I was pretty sad too. So.
Yeah, like you said, it was a good movie. It's definitely sad. There's a few things I wasn't. Super minor things I wasn't a big fan of in this movie.
Sure. But
I do agree. I like the fact that it tells such a, compelling story of, I guess a group of individuals in total, but focusing on these two in particular, especially because of the war, and the fact that they're naval aviators. Obviously, people of color is a big thing in this movie, which I love when that gets shown more, because
it's real,
it really happened, and because we've learned a lot through school or whatever. I just think it's great to see it on screen so that more people can be knowledgeable about it. And I thought this movie did a great job showing everything.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought it did a very I want to say more realistic view of the story, instead of a
did you know
super
this story?
Dramatic no, but just the way that it's told, it's so
what you mean is, instead of going for an insane crazy drama filled story, they just relied on the story itself to sell itself.
I just mean there I guess there could be little tidbits that might have been over exaggerated, maybe, sure. But for the most part, I felt like it was a true military based story, and not super dramatic or action glorified kind of thing,
No, I get what you mean. Something
there's a lot of very hard and hard to things to talk about and real problems that, even to this day, to a smaller extent probably exist in certain
Right.
places, you know.
Well, something or what you were talking about specifically, I think you're talking about, like, at least for me, the movie Midway. Did you watch that movie?
No.
It's obviously about the Battle of Midway,
Yeah.
but it does what I think you're talking about as far as like it's still a war movie and it tells the story of the Battle of Midway, but it's like just super dramatic all the time. It's constant,
like
in your face, and it's not like,
especially Midway too, because there's like multiple variations that have been told and shown on screen. So like, I mean, there's not a whole lot about the Korean War, admittedly, but just the way that it's told, I just appreciate that it's not like overly, you know.
I can understand what you're saying. All right. As far as a score / recommendation goes, my score, I have a little bit of a hard time scoring this movie because there are some issues that I have with the movie, not the story or anything, obviously, but just the execution of certain scenes, and also how one particular character was portrayed. And so the reason why I have trouble scoring it is because, like I said, I don't know this story.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Jesse. And so I don't know if what I saw was like what it was supposed to be, or if it was a dramatization, you know? Yeah. So I can talk more about it in the spoiler-free section, in the spoiler session, but I think my score is a very solid 8. It was a really good movie. I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. But there were a few tidbits here and there that just kind of threw me off just a little bit, enough to bring me down to an 8. Now, if I will say that if I do some more research into this, or maybe somebody in the comments can let me know later on in the video, if my issues that I have can be quelled because that's just who this particular character was and how he acted, then my score would probably go up. But as of right now, I'm gonna give it a really solid 8.
Yeah, I feel like I can actually relate to what you're talking about with this movie. I do actually have, like, my score, I would say, is mostly influenced from a movie standpoint. I actually enjoyed the story that it was telling, and everything involved very much. But because of, as a movie, I thought it had some issues.
Like cinematography or cutting together
like
the
certain
movie.
shots, the way, like, sometimes I felt things were just totally unnecessary and out of place. Pacing, like, at times I felt like was a little weird. Yeah, a little weird.
Yeah.
And so, like, on that kind of aspect, I'm actually at a 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I do recommend the movie, though. And
no, so that's the other half of it, is I do 100% recommend the movie. It is a good watch. It's something that you can feel good about going, like, once you get out of the movie theater, you feel good about it. It was a good story. It does get emotional. It does, pull at your heartstrings and
stuff. I want to say
I
do really enjoy Jonathan Majors and Glenn Powell's performance in this movie.
Yeah. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen this movie yet, go check it out. Give it a watch, especially if you guys if you guys don't know about this story prior to, right? Go give it a watch, because this guy's story needs to be heard. And in addition, like, it'll tell you at the end of the movie, his story is still not done, really. Like, and we'll talk more about that in the spoiler section.
I bet it was cool that, like, when I watched this movie, most of the people that saw it when we went to go watch it was older people. And, like, when we walked out, I could hear them, like, over talking, and one guy was like, "Oh, hey, what'd you think about it?" Like, and they're like, like, "Oh yeah, it was good," or whatever. He's like, "Yeah, it was pretty cool." He's like, "My dad served and whatever, blah 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 blah." I was like, "Oh shit, right, that's cool." Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. So go check it out, guys, and then we'll dive into some spoilers here, and we'll talk about our issues and also some of the good things. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is your official
spoiler alert.
All right. So, Taylor, did you cry at the end?
No.
All right. Because I was close. I ain't gonna lie.
It's really sad.
It hit me pretty hard. And honestly, I think what put me the closest to tears wasn't even the unfortunate passing of it's Jesse Brown, right? Is it Brown last name?
Yeah,
Jeez, it is Brown, right? Jesse Brown. Now, unfortunately, he passes away, ladies and gentlemen. This is spoiler section, so can't get mad. But he dies, and that was sad, and I kind of knew it was coming, but the moment when Tom what's the actor's name? Hangman? Jesus.
Glenn Powell.
God.
Tom Hudner.
Yeah. Tom Hudner's the character. Glenn Powell's the actor. When Tom is next to the plane and like Jesse's like, just tell my wife I love her, right? Yeah. Classic line. And then he's like, no, I'm gonna get you out of here. And then he just like takes this hammer / axe and he starts for it. Freaking whack, dude. I was convinced he was getting him out of there. I was like, oh my god, this dude's about to cut open a fucking plane to get him out.
This is like adds to what I mean about the performance of these two actors.
I was like,
because Glenn Powell, the moment he does that, it's hard to explain until you watch it, but he full like 110% was trying to free this man from this plane.
Yeah, like it was probably one of the most honest and realistic depictions of somebody trying to like
free somebody that's pinned
and that they care about, that it's emotional. Like I've seen, obviously, like my job was or is to pull people out of wrecks, but like it's different when you're emotional about it and when you're connected to the person that's in there.
That's a big difference.
And it was just, it was so authentic to me. It was just so like, I felt his like, I felt the adrenaline rush that he must have been getting while he was whacking the plane. Cause I was like, oh my God, that was like a really, really intense moment for me. And it brought a lot of emotions along with it, because unfortunately that's the moment when Jesse passes away and the pilot is like, hey, he's gone.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about that because like that hit me pretty hard.
No, yeah, it was very sad. Yeah. Especially because like everything else that was going around, like the fact that he Tom in the air was like, I'm doing this. I'm going with him.
He crashes his plane.
Yeah, he crashes his own plane. Cause boys
on purpose,
to go to go meet up with Jesse to try to save him, so that he's not alone on the ground, and he doesn't want him to get captured or anything. And then on top of that, the other guy was just like, you know what? Nobody else wants to go save them. I'm gonna go save them.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so I know we kind of jumped right to the end of the movie, ladies and gentlemen, but the movie starts out with the entrance of Tom Hudner's character to the group of pilots that Jesse Brown is already a part of in Rhode Island. Yeah. They're naval aviators. They fly Bearcats, and they're good at their jobs. And Jesse Brown is one of the best pilots there is, And we get this. One of the scenes that I want to talk about and just kind of get it out of the way, or not out of the way, but I want to like get into it. Is the scene where Tom Hudner and Jesse meet for the first time. Yeah. So to paint the picture for you guys just a little bit, Tom Hudner, arrives to the base and he's wearing his stuff and he walks into a locker room and he's looking for people, trying to,
just say hi to everybody.
Just say hi to people, introduce himself, and there's nobody in there. There's nobody in the locker room.
Seemingly.
He thought there's nobody in the locker room. And then, like, just before he's kind of, like, about to leave, because he sets his stuff down in front of his new locker, and he's about to leave, and all of a sudden he hears somebody, like, grunting and, like, saying some mean things.
Yeah.
And what it sounds like, at least from my perspective, it sounds like somebody is, like, yelling at somebody else, right? Like, in that moment, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, somebody's yelling at somebody in the bathroom. Like, it's kind of weird, but all right. And then a few seconds later, Jonathan Major's character, Jesse Brown, walks around the corner, and Tom asks him if everything was all right. And so the reason why I want to talk about this scene is because it's connected to a few other scenes later on in the movie where we find out that Jesse Brown has a little book that he carries around with him that has every single mean or degrading or racist thing that someone has ever done or said to him written down in the book. And if that's not enough to make you like get your skin on fire and pissed off, he recites those things to himself in a mirror in order to like it's like a perverse way of motivating yourself.
Yeah.
Like he was using it as a way to like keep his focus on whatever he needed to focus on and whatnot. But it's I guess it's motivating, but it's just really
it's just a negative version of it. Like you could do if you like kept adding to it, or like if he gave his response, like
right.
I don't know, like say I was just like, oh, you're an idiot, and you say that to yourself, like I'm an idiot, like no, fuck you, like I'm the shit.
Right, exactly. And so it, like you had said in the spoiler-free section, there's obviously some racism undertones of this movie because, unfortunately, at the time, the racial tensions between African American people or people of color and white people was still there. That scene of him in the mirror, so not the first scene, but then there's another scene after later on where
it builds.
Yeah, where we get probably a 2-minute scene of him standing in front of a mirror and just ripping himself to shreds with words that I'm not going to repeat because they're not for me to say. And it was like that was his version of the Glenn Powell scene at the end. Like when I watched that scene, I got goosebumps because of just how authentic Jonathan Majors seemed and how he portrayed that particular piece of this character. He just he nailed it. He hit that on the button.
And sorry, I'm trying to look up her name. His wife. Yeah, she did a really good job.
She did a good job too. Yeah. I just watching that.
Daisy is her character name, and Christina Jackson.
Christina Jackson. Okay. Yeah, just watching that scene gave me another rush of emotions and adrenaline just because of how authentic it felt and just reminded me that at that time it's not like it is now.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I liked it a lot. There's other movies that I think also do this very well. This, whenever that scene happens, was kind of like that extra step for me when I was watching, and I was like, oh, okay, they're like really going into it. Which, I mean, I appreciate to like just so that people are aware of it. Yeah. But I wasn't really expecting it. Like in the beginning, it kind of was like, I guess implied, right? And then I didn't know if they were just really gonna show up, and they definitely give you multiple scenes later on about it because it comes up whenever he's about to test for the carrier training.
Well, that's when we find out exactly what it is, and then later on the carrier,
that's when he talks about after the stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely like. Not an easy thing to just sit and watch casually, you know?
No, definitely not. It definitely gets you thinking. And I think that it's important that we watch that because it kind of it sets the baseline for who this character of Jesse Brown was. Right. And this is where we can kind of segue into a little bit of my, I don't want to say issues, but I guess more so questions because obviously I don't know Jesse Brown and I don't really know his story outside of what I just watched in this movie, but there were some character or personality inconsistencies throughout the movie that I didn't quite understand, and that's where my questions are born out of, is like, well, okay, so is this how he was, or were these inconsistencies born out of the theatrical portrayance of him?
Yeah.
Right. So there's various scenes where Jesse and Tom kind of get into it about the whole color thing. Like, he calls Tom Academy Boy because Tom went to the Naval Academy, and that's where he got his. And obviously, or well, not obviously, but Jesse flew or worked his way up to becoming a pilot, right? From nothing, and he flew in World War II. He fought in World War II. So there's a stigma that, like, even today, we kind of like. We've talked about it before. Like, there's a difference between people coming out of college or coming out of the academy. And
that's all normal.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Even when he was like, "Oh, were you part of the Big Show?"
Yeah,
even that kind of thing is still normal.
It's normal. The problem I had is that there were plenty of other times where they would talk about it, and he would get really emotional about it, and then it would just flip off. Like, it would flip on and then flip off. Like, he would get really emotional and call him Academy Boy, and be like, "Oh, you're white, I'm colored. Like, this, your slap on the wrist for you is not a slap on the wrist for me."
Yeah.
And then it would just flip off, and they're completely fine again. And so
I agree.
What I was not what I was expecting, but what my brain was thinking was like, okay, like, I can see that these two are obviously really good friends and gonna end up really good friends, and we're seeing the road of how they become good friends, and obviously there's bumps along the way, and sometimes friends have a little bit of a falling out, right?
Yeah.
And that every time that happened, I was like, oh, here it is. Here's where they fall out a little bit, and then they have to, return back to each other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it never happened. Like, they just, all of a sudden, it was just fine, and there wasn't a whole lot of an explanation on.
I totally understand what you mean, because I felt very similar to. It's like you ultimately know what's like the idea of them building and stuff, and I don't know if it's just like time jump thing where
maybe,
and like from scene to scene where like you said, it feels so inconsistent, and it's like it could exist in real life. It's just.
I just don't know.
It feels feels out of context just from us watching it, but it definitely could happen.
For
it's
sure.
Just we don't know because we never went through it.
There's some other things like in the beginning of the movie, it seems like there was a very heavy portrayal of Jesse Brown as this family man that prioritized his family over all else, and doesn't really interact with the guys. He doesn't drink. He doesn't go out with the guys the night before they deploy, and all these things. And it seems like he's very, very family oriented, right? And then they get to Cannes in France, and there's this famous actress there. I don't even remember her name now. Lisa Andrews something.
It's supposed to be Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor.
She actually did look kind of like her.
She did. After I looked it up after because I didn't know who that was, but
yeah, I didn't either. But she actually did look like her.
She looked really good, really close to her. But then all of a sudden, there's this interaction that he has with her, and he turns into this oh, let's go out and party and let's go to the casino and hang out with this actress and whatnot. And they go deeper down the line, and it he's trying to be a good wingman and stuff, but I don't know, it was just one of those I'm trying to learn about who this guy was and his personality and his character traits, and it just threw me off a little bit. And then there was really nothing later on down the line that could reinforce or explain why. And I'm just looking to get the complete picture. So I don't know, that's just another one of those times that I felt
I totally understand
a little
that.
off.
The whole going out thing when they were in France, I guess now that you're talking about it, it makes sense of why that felt out of place. To me, it didn't when I was watching it, just because of what he did specifically,
right?
Because they're on
shore leave.
Shore leave, and so you're just kind of doing whatever, you're hanging out basically before they go back out. And he kind of just like stumbles, because there's a scene in there that's I really loved, and so did Scarlett.
I love that scene.
Which calls back to an earlier scene when he's talking to his wife, and he's like, all you have to do is come to this beach and wave that, like, in that direction, and I'll wave right back at you.
Right.
And so when he gets to France, he finds a beach and waves to his wife. Right. And then that's when he just kind of randomly stumbles upon the Elizabeth Taylor character. And the way that he ends up like talking with her and stuff, the way it felt to me still reinforced his character of being a family man to me.
Yeah, no.
Because it's not like there was scenes which I loved that was in there.
You saw the eyes.
Typical fucking Marines acting the way they do, which you see them again later.
Goddamn Marines.
Yeah, you fucking crazy fucks. But yeah, so, you know, they end up talking to like, hey, you know, I like pilots, can just come swing by the casino, whatever.
Yeah.
And so everything that happens between them, it's really just like well, hey, she's a celebrity. She invited us over, me and my friends. Let's just go hang out, whatever. And then we get to see the cool.
Yeah. No, you're right, and I don't disagree with you. I just, like I said, when I was watching this movie, I was just trying to understand who this guy was. And in the beginning, he's like closed off, quiet, doesn't really hang out with anybody. Like
right.
he didn't go to that barbecue, right, that they had, and then he didn't go out the night before. And like when you see him in the classroom with the other pilots, or, you know, on the flight line and stuff, like he interacts with them, and it's not like there's bad blood or anything, but it doesn't have as much of a camaraderie effect that I would kind of expect from a pilot within the pilot group, right?
Yeah.
Which I think it's because of, you know, the color difference, and not negatively. It's just like in himself, he like kind of separated himself just because he was. There's
a lot of ways that they show in this movie, like the distinction between them. Yeah. Like even beyond obvious color, racial differences, like even uniforms. Right. Like he was the only one who wore a green flight suit.
I think I have that right here. Yeah.
The only one.
Yeah. And it's obviously just an old flight suit compared to
it's just an older one. But it's intentional as well as like like in a theatrical sense of showing the difference between them, you know? Yeah. Even though there is like a reason for it, but to a knowledgeable person, that surface value is different than like, he's an experienced pilot, an older one, and they're just newer ones. No,
that makes sense. Yeah,
but it's also he's the only African American pilot, and the rest they're all white.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not even his jacket is different too and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not knocking anything. I'm hoping that by like talking to you about it, I can kind of put the pieces together. And maybe people.
I understand. It's just I don't know. Maybe
because then like when he like sees Elizabeth Taylor, like that conversation is how I expected it to go. He's real respectful, right? Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, you can come by the casino," but then when he gets back to the guys, he's all like chipper and happy, and he's like, "Let's go get dressed, boys."
Yeah.
And I was just like,
you're right about
like
that.
Off a little bit.
It just feels weird, right? Yeah. Like it makes sense,
but it's just a little bit weird, and it's totally fine because it didn't. I don't think it was bad or detracted from the story. In fact, we get one of the better scenes, and one of the more enjoyable scenes out of
this is when you actually get like a lot of funny moments.
Yeah, because they go to this casino that Elizabeth Taylor invited them to,
and we get to see the best uniform in the United States Navy.
Yeah,
the Navy Whites.
The Navy Whites,
especially the officers.
They show up to this French casino, and Elizabeth Taylor talks about it when she invites him initially, because she's like, "Hey, come by the casino, bring all your friends. I like pilots." And then he's like, "Man, I don't think I don't remember what he says, but he's like, man, I don't think they'll let me in." Right. And he's obviously insinuating because he's black. And she's like, just tell them Elizabeth Taylor sent you or invited you. And then he goes, and of course he gets to the what are those guys called? Bouncers, I guess.
Yeah.
The door guys. It's not a club. But and they're talking in French at first, and then they talk in English. They're like, "Oh, you guys cannot come here." And then they look at him and they're like, "Especially you."
Yeah.
And you know the other pilots that were with him, you know, all his friends, they're like, yeah, you know, they did the right thing. They're like, let's go somewhere else.
Like, yeah, screw them.
Screw these guys. Let's take our business elsewhere. Let's go. We got you, bro. We'll stick with you. And then he's like, no. I got this. And he walks up to them and he just busts out some French.
Yeah, he just starts talking to them in French.
It's so great. It's one of the best moments. And everybody around is just like, what the? Yeah. And he talks to them in French, and then they look at their little list and they're like, oh. And then they let him in, and he's like, let's go. And it was so great. It's such a gratifying moment to watch asshole people put in their place, you know.
In a classy way.
Yeah,
especially.
in a very classy way that, you know, sends a good message. It's good. Yeah. It was a really good scene. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. And then once they finally get inside, I loved all the interactions with the Marines. Because they walk up and Elizabeth, at first they're just hanging out at the bar and they're like, there's no way that she's here. And he's like, oh, don't worry, just wait. And he's like looking around. I was like, oh, there she is. And then he's like, here, I'll go introduce you guys. And so they walk up to her and they're like playing craps, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And
no, it was roulette.
Roulette.
Sorry, it was roulette.
And the Marines are sitting with her, and she's like, "Oh, hey, like these are my other friends, whatever." And they're like, "Oh," she's like, "Do you guys know each other?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're on the same ship."
Yeah.
And they're like, so you can tell immediately that the Marines are like, "Oh God, like, these fucking Navy guys,
pilots again," because obviously pilots just steal all the chicks.
Oh, yeah. Understandably so.
Yeah. You got them wings, man.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, them wings.
I mean, if Maverick walks up,
you're done.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
I mean, yeah. Which, that's another thing that I really actually liked. And it might be a small detail that's kind of lost on other people, but I think you probably, at least you should have picked up on it, was the whole just emphasis on the wings, right? On the
whenever
wings
he's
itself.
like, hey, like,
yeah, like I'm gonna
borrow mine, like,
yeah, I'm gonna give you, which is something that like that's a big deal, right? He's like, he's taking his uniform to give to him.
Yeah. Like I would do the same thing. Like if I went out and I was with, you know, some of my friends and I was like, hey, like, and he was like, I'm gonna go talk to the chick. I would be like, yeah, here, just borrow mine. Like, fuck it.
Right. But it's like, you're right. And it's the friend thing, but it also just like, it's a re-emphasis of or like how much wings mean to people that are in the military. Because like,
just in general, like being a pilot. I mean, I have wings, so they're cool. They're shiny and stuff. Yeah. But like, especially for like these guys, they're naval aviators, right? Yeah. Like I was just a fucking, you know, ATC. So I just talk to them. But you know, it's a huge thing just to be a pilot in general, and even for people that like. Don't know anything about the military, you know, like two major things. If you're a pilot, if you're an infantryman, you know, you go shoot stuff and like all that kind of crap. Those are like the easy, outstanding things you can really like brag about to everybody. Because otherwise it's like, what are you? Oh, I'm like a tech cyber analyst.
I refuel stuff.
You know, like you have like some obscure job. Like
I work on radios.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with it or it's not important. It's just
your MOS
to
matters.
Explain it. Right.
But pilots are better.
Let's just be honest. They're cool. They're cool.
Medics are pretty cool too, though.
So, you know.
Just saying.
But yeah, you know, to the obvious, I guess, individual, like, it just makes sense to brag about your wings and stuff. They're naval aviators. They got their fucking super nice dress whites. Like, it's just, of course, you're going to.
You want your man you want your boy to look the best you can, have the best shot.
Because it's not like they all didn't have the same stuff. It's just that particular day he forgot it. Yeah. And so, you know, he was just trying to look out for him.
What were your thoughts on the condition of the white uniforms? Did they look a little shaggy to you?
Just, what do you mean? Like
they just looked a little like and it may just be that, you know, they're in a small, cramped submarine, so there's a lot of clothes. You can't just have a giant closet to hang up all your shit in. It just looked like the uniforms weren't like pressed and and starched.
Yeah, like in super good
nice.
condition. Yeah, I mean, as far as like that level of detail, yeah, I don't have no idea what living conditions.
Right.
I mean,
no, but I'm just asking if did you feel that way? Like, when you looked at them, you're like, oh, they're not pressed like I would expect them to be.
It wasn't so much that it bothered me.
No, it didn't bother me. I just was curious if you picked up on it.
It didn't look that bad. And I know for a fact that, like, first of all, you Navy guys have like a billion uniforms, but yeah, I know especially your guys' service uniforms are insanely hard to like keep in really nice condition. Because I know, like, even when they're not being worn, I know they're like trained to keep it like inside out to keep the
moisture or something.
Both the like the ironing and starch and stuff, and like stains off of the outside and stuff like that. Like, they have very specific things because of how delicate their uniforms are. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I was just curious.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, it didn't stand out to me that much.
Yeah. Oh, this is the day that they went out.
Yeah, this is what they're. Yeah. This is when they went out initially, before they got invited. Yeah. They look good.
You know what's funny is I didn't even notice it was Joe Jonas until halfway through the movie, and I only noticed it because Kristen.
You know what's funny
Kristen
is
pointed out.
I knew that Joe Jonas was in the movie. I didn't never even noticed him in the movie. Like, I knew he was in it, but never noticed him in it. Yeah. And then after the fact, like, oh wait. That was Joe Jonas.
Which is a good thing, and it's a good thing on his behalf that he acted well enough that we didn't notice it was him.
Like, obviously that's Joe Jonas. Yeah. But yeah, it looked good. I also really liked that this is just a little detail of, like, they're officers, they're Navy officers, so when they go on shore leave, they get to look all cool and dress, super dapper and stuff. I'm sure all the Marines were just in their fucking
Class Bs,
normal Class Bs, Even the lower Navy enlisted are probably just in their Class Bs.
Yeah, well, you saw a few of them.
Yeah, some of them were in their whites. Yeah, their Cracker Jack uniforms.
Popeye looking stuff,
which looked nice.
It did. All right, let's talk about some of the aerial combat and the aerial aspect. So earlier this year, we got a movie that absolutely just,
of course,
put an incredibly high standard of what aerial combat should look like on
modern combat, at least.
Well, let me say this: it put the standard on what aerial combat should be. In a film. Now, I don't know if any of the actors went up in planes with pilots and, like, filmed anything like how Top Gun did. But
at least we know Glenn Powell did.
Yeah, we know his stuff was authentic. But what I will say about this movie is that as far as aerial combat from 50 years prior or 50 years before than what Top Gun showed. More. Yeah. I think it was pretty good. That was pretty solid.
No, yeah, it was actually really good.
And there weren't a whole lot of times where I could obviously tell it was CG.
Yeah. There's only a few, like, moments where it was like, to me, it was...
Yeah, it was obvious.
Obviously, CG. Yeah. But it's definitely a good mix of, like, CG and, like, actual
real planes.
Planes.
Which, by the way, these planes are sick. Yeah. I love these planes. This is the Corsair. They originally flew Bearcats, but this
when right before they're about to get orders to go to Korea, they have to get aircraft carrier training and train on this while doing it with this new plane, the Corsair.
Yeah, typical of the military to be like, oh yeah, we're probably going to deploy somewhat soon, so let me throw an entire new airframe at you.
You're about to go possibly die, so learn all of this new stuff that you've never used before.
Learn an entirely new airframe.
Yeah.
Have fun.
While learning to land on a moving ship.
Yeah.
Good luck. Casually. Yeah.
Good luck.
If not, then you fail and you stay home when you're
in your shame forever.
Yeah.
I guess we can, on the note of landing on a moving ship, rest in peace to, what's his last name? Coing.
That's well.
Jeez.
Koenig. Koenig.
Koenig. What's his first name?
Bill.
Yeah. Rest in peace, man. Unfortunately, it's always training. You know, it's always like on the most routine flight where you're just checking to see if something that they fixed was actually fixed and working, and then he was on his way back in and he missed it.
It's actually this kind of adds to the fact that I was talking about where it's like a semi real approach to it, where you're right. Actually, most casualties are like before and after. It's not actually, like there's not actually that many during like a. I mean, again, obviously it varies on like what you're talking about.
I mean,
but,
D-Day was pretty bad. But,
but I mean, like even like nowadays, there's not that many casualties during war. It's usually before or after the fact, especially after the fact.
Right. Like and it's just unfortunate that he had to go out like that. It's sad. And that actually birthed one of those scenes that I was talking about with between Tom and
when they're out on the
because they're all out there looking at their planes, doing an inventory check, checking all their serial numbers, which is God.
That was another funny moment because that happens all the time. They literally came in and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have to go do an inventory check on every single thing, of course, because you do that all the time, and it takes forever." And he's like, "They're like, oh, but like Todd, this is gonna take us like all week," and he's like, "Only if you work fast."
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those other moments where he's just like, yeah, that's real. That's a real thing.
That sucks.
Yeah, I feel your pain, bro.
It's not all about the cool stuff.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that means that they were all out on deck to watch their friend hit the water, and it sucked. Sad. But afterwards, Tom and Jesse kind of get into it because Tom, like when they watch it happen, Tom just goes, "You're not supposed to throttle that fast," or whatever. Because they said in the beginning, don't punch the throttle because this thing has an insane amount of torque and it's going to flip you over. And that's what happens.
This was a complicated scene to me because I don't think they actually touch on it, but and I feel like it was maybe there, but they just never bring it up, is like they never really talked about the fact that Jesse was the one who nudged him to go out on that flight. Because it could have been somebody else. Right.
Well, they did assign it to somebody else.
Right.
And then
he kind of just like, hey, like you should go do this one.
Because he was shaky on landings, and so what Jesse was trying to do is be a good friend and be like, hey man,
get more practice.
Like you should get some more practice. You can get some more confidence. But then he ended up, dying.
Yeah, because he was testing out a new gyro, and so he was just way off when he was trying to land. But so the scene you're talking about when it's Jesse and Tom talking, this is one of the probably many things that happen in this movie where, at least, well, there's one other for sure I can think of, where it's a complicated issue of what's happening on screen because Tom basically was like, like you said, they were told and they were trained not to do what he did. Like you were supposed to listen to the LSO and follow the directions given to you because the fact that you can't really see as much of the deck as you can with this plane because when you're landing, the nose is so big that you have to keep it pointed up. Yeah.
And you can't recover as quickly because you can't accelerate fast.
Right.
Because the motor is too powerful.
Or, well, you can't control whenever you accelerate really fast, you can't control anything. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does is he comes too low, tries to crank the throttle, and then just slams right into the water.
Well, it's so, without getting into like the fucking physics behind everything, it's too low. They tell him to pull up, and whenever you pull up, you got to add throttle, otherwise you're going to stall, right? So he adds too much throttle, and the torque of the motor is so strong that instead of flipping the propeller, it flips the plane on its axis, and then that just threw him right into the water. Yeah. Which is really sad.
But because of that happened, Tom was just basically like, he shouldn't have done that. Like he shouldn't be dead. And like he took like a, I don't know, like straightforward response,
a non-emotional response to it.
Which is what Jesse did, which was like, oh my god, like whenever it happened, he's like, we got to go check on him and stuff and hope that he's alive or whatever. He dies, but he just hated Tom's response to the situation, which I just want to point out, like, he's not wrong.
No.
But it was
pretty
definitely
insensitive.
not a great idea to say that at the moment, even though it was correct.
Well, that's where, like, that's part of my issue with scoring this movie, because in those specific moments, was that something that was actually said when it happened? Like, are they doing it like that? Like the screenwriters and the director, did they do it like that because that's how it actually happened and they're trying to go for authenticity, or did they write that in? And if they wrote that in, that's just weird to me, and it didn't really work.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but I don't know. Like, I don't know the answer to that question.
To me, it works. It's just I don't like it because you're adding like a level of
complexity to an already complex issue.
Yeah, like it's almost like verbal gymnastics when it's really shouldn't have to be that like complicated, because they're basically trying to like add to the fact that they basically use this as an example of being like, oh, Jesse's good, Tom's bad kind of thing, when that's really not the case. It's just the awkward conversation basically. Even though nothing was actually wrong and nothing like, or anything like that, you know what I mean? So it's almost like intentionally trying to put blame on him or something, or like add some kind of negative view to him as a person. When me personally, I was just like, no, that's like, yeah, it's insensitive, but how?
It's also right.
Yeah, like how much can you really blame him for that? Like, sure, you can make just a little comment of like, hey, this is not the time. That's it. But they play it out so much that it's like, you're a piece of shit. Like, fuck you. Why did you say that?
Well, that's
what I mean. Like,
that's what I meant by like Jesse Brown is like, you're an asshole for saying that, blah blah blah, and then it's just fine.
Yeah, and they do it again later, which I also hated it too. Is they do the same thing when when they go on mission and Jesse pulls his little stunt. Yeah, and he's like, they come back and he's like, oh, in the report it says you disobeyed orders. Well, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
like he didn't do anything wrong. Like he was the lead of the team at the time. Like because it was funny too. The actual commander, he pulled a move that I would totally expect from somebody of a high position. He's just like, oh, is my landing gear working?
No, I gotta go back.
And he's like, yeah, it's closed. He's like, oh no, it's broken. Yeah, I can't go on this mission. He kind of just leaves. It's funny. And then so he passes the lead on to Tom, and since he was in charge of the mission, and while they're doing, he was like, hey, no, it's too dangerous. Let's go back. And Jesse's like, no, I got this. I still got ammo and stuff. The thing is, with that situation, it's like he had full rights to do what he did in that report.
Yeah, well, that's
exactly what happened.
Right.
Now, the problem is I wouldn't do that personally because of what happens.
Right.
So because he was successful and nobody died, I wouldn't have written a report like that to downplay his success. But the problem is like,
because then if it comes out,
you're risking your job for him, and it's like, so it's very complicated, and it's like, that's why it's like the movie puts more emphasis that Tom is a bad person for doing it,
right? Even
though he's really not. It's just a really complicated situation.
Well, they try to portray so,
because this is when they pull out the race thing, and he's like,
yeah,
a slap on the wrist to me is not the same as you're right, but this is not what is actually happening.
Yeah, that is going to be an outcome of what happened, but what happened is not his fault. Yeah. Like Tom's fault is what I'm talking about. And there's no deeper, like, what is the right word? I'm trying to think of the word. Like between Tom and Jesse, they don't delve into it deeper. They just like he just says, "Oh, okay, sorry,
Okay.
all right." And technical difficulties. My bad. So, they don't delve into the issue farther than the surface of what you're talking about. How Tom they went against bro code.
Yeah.
But it's worse than what he thought it would be because he didn't know. Like, I didn't know that because you're colored, it would be worse for you. I thought like, oh, it's just a, because on Tom's side, he thought, oh, I'm just going to tell the truth and, you know, I'm going to write that he did a good job and then all this and that. But he included that one part that said, oh, he disobeyed my order to go.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to do the right thing. But it also is against bro code. But they don't dive any deeper than just, oh, you're screwing me over, man. And then he's like, okay, what do you want me to do to fix it? Like, they don't dive any deeper than that.
I don't know. It's just the repeating theme that I'm not a fan of in this movie, especially with these two characters, because it's like, obviously, there's a race problem.
Right.
But Tom's character never shows that as being a problem.
Ever. Yeah.
And then they bring it up and it's like, what are you doing, bro? This is a problem. And he's like, what do you mean? What's the problem?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, obviously there's a thing.
Obviously there's a problem in society, but
not for these two people as like friends.
Yeah. Or even within the pilot group.
Right. So
together.
The fact that you're bringing this up yourself, it's like, and then blaming him, it's like, it's
right.
weird.
It's not fair to Tom because Tom has never belittled him or did anything to him
what you see in the movie, it just never crosses his mind. So to bring up the fact that like, oh, this is going to cause me more problems because I'm black. It's like,
yeah.
But he wasn't thinking that.
No. But what I mean is that Jesse is not being fair to Tom because Jesse just, whenever something like this happens, like in this particular situation, he just automatically thinks Jesse is just like doing something or, you know, being conniving or trying to be another person that's trying to stop him. But in reality, Jesse just didn't know. Like it's just not it's not a thing to him. Like he didn't.
Well, that's what
realize.
That's what I mean. It's like, it's so weird to show this on screen and not actually explain it enough.
Yeah.
Because then it kind of just gives the impression that, oh, well, what happened was fine. But it wasn't fine.
Right.
They should have explained it a lot more than they do if they're going to bring it up, because now you're just saying, oh, what happened is okay. And because race is an issue, he was an asshole. When in reality, like to Tom, it never occurred to him about that. Like, yes, that's why I said, like, that's going to be a future problem because of what happened. But that isn't the reason why you were put in that position.
Right.
Like, they're two totally separate things of you decided to do what you did and do the super cool fucking heroic thing, which is great. You accomplished the mission. That's awesome. But you did disobey his order.
Right.
Pull something very dangerous because you could have, one, killed yourself. They chose not to, but you doing that, like, I might have been like, well, since you're going, I got to go with you because if you're going to be a wingman, you got to be his wingman. You know what I'm saying?
Like, if we were up there and you went, I'd be like, well, guess I'm going too.
Yeah, I guess we're going, right? Like, that's kind of how it generally I would expect it to. But in this movie, they're like, no, fuck that. Understandably so.
Yeah, for sure.
It was not a very, like, night and day, like, or black and white situation. Because they had to destroy this bridge because they could not touch anything on the Chinese side of the
river,
the peninsula. And that's where they were getting shot by a lot of like anti-air fire. Yeah. So it's like, oh, we're about to die, but I can't do anything about it. So like
on the surface, it's a suicide run,
basically, right? Yeah. So that's why they like understandably don't follow him. Even though if I was there, I probably would have just went because, like I said, if your boy's going, you're going. Yeah. Like kind of like what happens in the end of the movie, you know? But because you decided to do that, you should be accepting the responsibility of what happens for those actions. And you're choosing, the movie portrays it as you not doing that, but saying that it's okay when it's not okay.
Yeah, he chose to do something that he knew was wrong at the moment, and then when he comes back.
Well, he just knew it was a dangerous thing to do.
Well, but he knew it was wrong. He knew he was disobeying a direct order.
Right.
But he chose to do it anyway because
wanted
he
to be the hero, which
and he thought what he was doing was right. But he knew he was disobeying a direct order, and he knows what happens to people that disobey direct orders, and he knows what happens to colored people that disobey direct orders, and he chose to do it anyway. And then he comes back to the boat and still gets mad at Tom for saying
writing
that
what
he
happens in his
did
report.
what he did. Yeah. So I agree with you. It's
that's what I just wanted to bring up, because this is one of the major things I didn't like about this movie is just when something is shown and it's actually a lot more complex than they show it to be.
Right.
And they just kind of blow it off. That's not okay. I don't like that.
Well, it adds to me to my argument of, was that actually who Jesse Brown was? Like, did he actually do that? Was he actually, wasn't able to understand that at a deeper level? Because the impression I get is that the dude was super smart and should have known, right? And should have expected that, especially with all the prior experience he's had.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for it to happen.
Inequality. So, but
the thing is too, is like, regardless of whether it was real or not, it's bad.
Sure.
And I don't like it. What's a bad message?
Sure. That's fair.
Whether it's real or not.
No, that is fair. Regardless, it's still, even if that was him, it's a bad.
Yeah.
It's not a good message for people. The other issue, or not issue, but other question that I had, and this is kind of my last one as why like it got an 8 instead of a higher. His interaction and lack of interaction with other colored guys on the ship. So there's a couple scenes where we see other colored or African American sailors that are not pilots. Obviously, they do other things, and it's like we've been saying this whole time. Jesse is like the golden child, right, for African American and colored people, because it's like, oh, he made it. He made it out.
He's like the Maverick.
Right, exactly. So they like, even on the first before they deploy and they're practicing landing on the carrier, all the color guys come out of the ship to watch Jesse land his plane on the ship, which I thought was a really cool moment. And it was awesome. It was very heartwarming and whatnot, because like, oh, like they know who Jesse is, they know what he's doing, and they're trying to support him, right? And then later on in the movie, after, or when was it? Oh, it was after the mission, this mission,
after
where they blew up the bridge, and then he has his like blow up with Tom, and
because he goes out to go like
he goes clear his head or whatever, and one of the other color soldiers that we see in the beginning of the movie comes out, sees or like to approach him, and he says, thank you for being who you are and showing that we can do this too, and we just want you to know that all the other colored guys, we see you, right? And then we pitched,
the brothers,
the brothers. And then they were like, oh, we all pitched in and got you something in France
while they were on shore leave
to show you appreciation, right? And they hand him a freaking Rolex watch.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Like, I don't know if Cannes France is like,
how much you guys pushed or like, what's it called? Pitched in for this.
Yeah.
Like, that's
like,
an
holy crap.
gift.
Like, it's not just like, they didn't just get him a watch, or they didn't just get him like a bottle of whiskey or something. They got him a freaking Rolex. Yeah. And like, I was just like, oh, on one hand, I was like, how come like they don't do that now? Like, but also the way that he kind of responded to that and whatnot just got me thinking, like, because he responded with like, thank you. Obviously, he was grateful.
Yeah.
But like, that was it. Like, he didn't really show a whole lot of gratitude. He's just like, oh, thank you for the watch.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what's your name? Say there. And he's like, oh, I'm Jesse. And then shakes his hand. Yeah. And the other guy was even like, a lot of us get together and we talk about you and we talk about things. So I was expecting like, hey, these guys went out and spent their own money to give you something just because they appreciate you as an example and as an inspiration to them. And you couldn't take like 5 minutes to just go and say hi to everybody. Like maybe not even in that particular moment.
Yeah.
But like later on, you couldn't be like, hey man, like let me know the next time you guys can all get together. I'd like to come say thank you in person.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is another moment of
I was just like, what?
You play the race thing, right?
Right. And then you don't.
But now when it actually, now that it's being shown with like this is when you're supposed to be the role model, kind of like appreciating the gift and stuff, and it's like, and you're right, his interaction is just like, oh, cool, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh yeah, like even if it's not sincere, like for example, like if a celebrity like was given something, typically they try to do something for you as a fan, so that you feel appreciated. Yeah, appreciated by them for you going out of your way to do something for them. And in this case, it's like, well, you use like the whole race thing so much in your other things. Why, now that it's in a good light, you're ignoring it? Right. And you're not really like. Why
are we not showing both sides of it?
Right. Like you show a lot of the negative things, but why aren't you showing a positive message about it? Like, because I love the fact that they had this with the different sailors and stuff. Like, that was great. That's cool. Like, if you had that for any other like group of people, whatever, minorities or people of color, like that's cool. Like whenever we hear about stories of like, even like for example, Jason Momoa.
Oh sure, yeah.
It's awesome. And I like if we saw him, like I would love to fucking hang out with him or something, or like share a drink. And if he was just like, oh yeah, cool, like just go away, like that would suck. Right. This is an example of that. It's like, you do something so great, and you are absolutely like inspirational because you're doing something that's, first of all, not a lot of people can do in general. Yeah. But on top of that, because of all the problems in the world, like and race being an issue, you're still accomplishing that and being one of the best pilots in the world. And then you're just kind of like, oh yeah, but whatever.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%, man. It's
just weird.
It was a bummer because it was a moment that I was expecting something and I thought it was going to be really cool. And had they given us some kind of scene of him going to meet all the colored soldiers and just saying thank you, sorry, not soldiers, sailors, my bad, and saying thank you, and maybe just having a moment. It doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be huge, but it could even just be literally just brushes it off. So
yeah, it could have just been like a montage of just him shaking hands, maybe a few laughs, a drink or something. Like it didn't have to be anything crazy, but they didn't, and it's to me it's glaring.
Or even if like I feel like even just a subtle nod, like could literally be a nod. So like, say he comes in like
on the flight line or something.
Yeah, like he's on the flight line and they had just finished the like successful thing, and he could just turn to the side and see them all like cheering him on, and I'm like, appreciate you guys, Yeah, just something real small, but they don't like it's just so.
No, I agree with you. It's not. It's just a bummer.
It feels inconsistent, like.
Yeah, it does. That's what I meant by in the beginning during the spoiler-free session. There's just a few things like that just kind of throw you off and just make you just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess moving on.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk real briefly. I don't really need to talk about the final mission itself because it's in the final mission they just go to provide air support for a bunch of Marines that are on the ground getting just absolutely hammered by
this was another
North Koreans.
Weird thing I feel like was just never finished.
The Marines
is the Marine thing. So obviously they're intertwined with all the funny stuff in the beginning.
Yep.
And they try to interject like a serious tone to it.
Well, they do because they get when they do come to bring the freaking air support.
Well, like we get some scenes. Low. Yeah, we get some scenes of the Marines like in their living conditions and how shitty this war was. Like it's the middle of winter. Let me tell you, it's fucking cold in Korea. And they're like how just shitty it is. And they're like fighting and there's people dying and stuff and then it goes up to like it just jumps from that like being in the shit to the pilots on the ship and they're like, we got tasked with this mission.
Like as far as tone of the scenes flip flopping like that, just throws you off.
Yeah, well, all of the Marine stuff, it just like other than the funny moments, this part where it's like serious feels so out of place because it's like,
Well, I think
it's like almost like it should be an entirely different movie because they never finish the, I guess, mini arc or whatever.
Right. That's what I mean is that because they don't finish it, it feels out of place. But if they had in some way like brought the arc back to the Marines and the pilots basically being, or the Marines being appreciative of the pilots because they fucking saved their asses.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's a scene during the final battle where, Jesse flies real low and whether or not it's realistic, but he locks eyes.
Yeah,
they lock eyes with one of the Marines on the ground that's been the main Marine that's been causing trouble throughout the movie.
Jesse doesn't know who that is, but the Marine looking at him
because there's only one,
of course, sees him and he's like, "Oh, that's the guy."
Yeah,
that he's been having a quarrel with.
There's a moment where they could have tied it up and brought it back,
but they choose not to.
Yeah, and it was a weird thing for me because it would have been so easy and it could have been literally just subtle. As simple as them being like, "Hey, come by this fire." Because after, unfortunately, Jesse dies and whatnot, he gets rescued by the guy with the helicopter. He brings them back to the forward operating base, and the pilot's like, "Hey, go get warm. We'll get you out in the morning. Like, we'll take you back to the ship in the morning or whatever." And he walks down.
He walks through the camp and everything.
And he sees the Marines that they've been beefing with all movie.
And they just say nothing.
And nothing. No thank you. No, nod of appreciation. Nothing.
It's as if they, didn't know each other.
Yeah, which is bull crap. Because, it was a moment where I was like, well, that's not how I was expecting that to go.
Yeah. It's just in general, that's...
that was your choice. That was your opportunity.
Bad writing. You... fully if you wanted this arc, that was your end moment.
That was
just totally ignored
opportune moment.
Yeah, you just totally
yeah, and I don't understand why.
Which is why you either should have never had this to begin with,
right?
Aside from the funny part, like I said, only the serious part. Because if you just left it at them having shenanigans, that's totally fine.
Sure.
That could have been it right there. But because you brought it back again to add some kind of level of detail for no reason at all, it's stupid.
Right, because they preface this ending scene that we never got because it didn't happen. But they preface that with, like you said, these scenes of the Marines in the shit and just freezing their asses
it gets real
off.
dramatic,
Yeah.
real quick, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the war that nobody knows about.
Right.
And then it jumps to the pilots, and then you're like, yeah, so we're gonna go save these Marines.
It's real, yeah.
Just do your thing, whatever. Because to the pilots, they're like,
it's another mission.
It's just another thing. Yeah. They're just, it's cool seeing the huge difference between a naval pilot and a Marine, especially an infantryman, in the crap, But for what?
No,
for nothing.
I agree.
At the end.
I agree.
So you added this extra screen time for no reason.
Yeah.
You might as well have just kept the mission, them flying and shooting, and that's it.
Sure.
You didn't need any of that extra the Marines
on the ground,
living there on the ground, and they have this is a. I mean, I know I'm not a Marine, but there was a scene where they're in their trench or their foxhole, and then it's right before it goes down. One guy gets shot, and then all of the Marines come off of their fighting positions to go help this one guy. What? What? I'm not an infantryman, but I'm pretty sure that ain't happening.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not it's kind of mixed because yes, you are taught that if somebody goes down, you need to suppress the threat first. You fire back first. Well, it was the fact.
I expect somebody to react, but a whole bunch of them come. No, not even just that. They leave their rifles on their foxhole and then go help this other Marine. And I was like, look, I may not be a Marine, but a lot of my family are Marines, and I promise you, they ain't leaving their weapon like that. Yeah. I mean, even I wouldn't do that.
The bigger problem I have with those scenes, and it's, I don't know, maybe I just...
And they don't even do anything anyways.
But it's especially the one scene earlier in the movie where the guy goes to get coffee or something, and then he walks back to the foxhole. It just went from people standing around a fire, getting warm, normal camp life, he took 5 steps and was at a line of foxholes and fighting and like forward fighting positions. And then he gets down. He's like, "Oh, we gotta hide. We can't like." And they're all like on the thing. They're like, "Oh, shh, like don't talk loud because they might hear us or see us."
It's like, and they're all around you, bro. Like,
it's like, dude, they don't see the like 10 other fires. And then one guy was like, "It'd be great to have a fire in this foxhole." And I was like, "Yeah, but we can't do that." And I was just like, so the guy like 20 feet over there can have a fire and stand over there with a fire in the barrel, but you guys, oh, okay. All right, cool.
Well, not only that, it's like, dude,
It's like,
okay,
what?
I don't like. This is gonna a little extra, like,
No,
just
this is all
entire
extra stuff.
Their entire position
was horrible.
Like, look,
You're gonna be in the base of a freaking valley.
I know you guys are Marines and you just eat crayons. But come on, bro. I know that even you know. I know, and you know it. Everyone knows it. That is a horrible fighting position. Get the hell out of that place, bro. Yeah. Like, you are literally in the wide open, surrounded
at
like,
the base of like 3 mountains coming at you.
I know this happens again. This happened in Afghanistan, and it happens all the time. Yeah. It's stupid. But who willingly decide? Like, come on, bro. Come on. You're Marines, dude.
Come on, bro. You're supposed to be the best of us.
I know you know the shit way better than I do.
Yeah.
Like, that is a horrible position. Like, you guys were screwed over. And I know that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But could you have made it a little less stupid looking in this movie, at least? And on top of that, too, I don't even remember, but does he say medic?
No,
or does he say corpsman?
I don't remember him. I feel like he doesn't.
Out. No, they called for somebody. But I don't know.
Well, it definitely was not corpsman.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he says medic.
Yeah.
Which I know.
Another small detail that.
Nobody cares. They don't have medics. They have corpsmen.
Yeah. Well, corpsmen are. I mean, I wouldn't even equate medics to corpsmen. Corpsmen are doctors.
Well, they're way different. It's because corpsmen, like, again, this is just weird Navy stuff, but like a corpsman can literally, it's just a rating. So like a corpsman could be a fucking dentist, or it could be a combat medic, or it can be a nurse, or like it could literally be anything medical. Is a corpsman.
Freaking,
you guys are just weird
crap.
But anyways, I just wanted to point out that.
Get back to Devotion, the movie.
I just wanted to point that out because. Look, I like the Marines. At least treat them how they should be. A little more respect. Yeah.
All right. I just want to finish this episode with a positive note, positive nod to the movie, and something that I really liked. And like off the top of my head, I can't think of other movies that do it kind of like this, but it's not too often that we get someone that watches their friend die. We get the very classic, and I don't want to say cliche because if I was in that situation, it's probably something I would say. But telling your friend, "Hey, make sure you tell my wife how much I love her." Yeah. Right. It's not very often where we actually get to see that happen, where we get to see the friend go back and tell the wife or tell the spouse,
like finish
and be like, "Hey, like
we always see the beginning, but never the end."
Right. Like it's not very often that we get to see that. So. The final thing that I just wanted to touch on was that at the end of the movie, we do get Tom during his Medal of Honor ceremony, which did not know he got a Medal of Honor.
I didn't know either.
And I'm kind of like, it's interesting to me that, well, I guess, I don't know. He got a Medal of Honor and Jesse got what did he get, a Distinguished Cross or something?
Yeah, he got like the Naval Distinguished Cross.
I don't know what their version of it is. But he got a Medal of Honor for what he tried.
This
to do.
This is I liked it because it wasn't like it was shitty, but it was an accurate portrayal of what happens to this day.
Yeah,
all the time with the military.
Yeah.
Anytime something horrible happens and like the survivors always get told that like you're the heroes and stuff.
Yeah.
And they end up coming back and a lot of times they just end up killing themselves or whatever because they feel so bad about what happened.
Survivor's guilt.
And it makes it worse because because the military is like, "Oh, here's your little medal. Yeah. All your friends are dead, but here's your medal."
I thought it was amazing. It was an amazing moment watching Tom rip the medal off his neck.
No, I love the interaction between him and Daisy,
yeah.
Like Daisy throughout the whole movie is so good.
Great,
like
solid.
Just like as like his wife and stuff, like
and as a character, even if it was,
even as like the actor, But like the fact that she stayed, super strong throughout the whole situation, even at the end when Tom's like,
man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and he's like, basically she's like, I'm really sorry.
Hey,
I was with him at like
it's not your fault. And it's important because at the beginning of the movie, before they deploy, she sits down with him and she's
like alone with him. And she's like, can you promise me to
keep to be there for him?
Yeah, to be there for him.
And it comes back in later in it because when they're talking after Jesse's death, he obviously feels really bad and really
he's
guilty.
Like, I'm sorry,
because he feels like he failed her, right? Yeah. And he feels like he failed his job, and she's like, no. I didn't ask you to save him. I didn't ask you to protect him. I asked you to be there for him, and you were.
Yeah, you were.
And it was just that. That was probably the moment where I got the closest to tears. Was that moment?
I was really sad
because I was like, oh my god, like I didn't even think about it that way.
I couldn't imagine
because I was feeling survivor's guilt for Tom. Yeah, man, I feel you. I don't want to say you fucked up, but you know.
Because honestly, I couldn't imagine being in that kind of situation. Man. I would have been like, there's nothing I can do, but I tried my best. I couldn't do it. I failed, and I was like, "This is your medal." I
was hoping that he was going to give her the medal, but he didn't.
Yeah,
he gave her his wings though, which is
because he was like, "Oh, this is yours," because he was giving her Jesse's
the wings back. Yeah. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, to close this out, unfortunately, Jesse Brown's body to this day has not been recovered and brought back to his family to be laid to rest. And there are some websites and some places that we can link down in the description below if you guys are interested in showing support or being a part of eventually trying to get Jesse's remains brought back to the United States. And I think that at the end of the movie, despite all of those little inconsistencies and things that we talked about that weren't really that great, that I still really appreciated the movie and appreciate who Jesse Brown was and what he did for our country and the story that was told through this movie. And hopefully you guys feel the same way. So check out our description for those websites to see how you might be able to help hopefully get Jesse Brown's body back to his family. And go check out the movie, because if anything, go check out his movie, or go check out the movie that's about him, so you know his story and you can honor him in that way. But that's all I got for Devotion. Really enjoyed it. And anything else you had to?
The last thing I just wanted to bring up real quick is it's just more sad stuff. But it's actually right before the end, or I guess at the end. It's when it's another moment that I felt very emotional about, is when Jesse's, he gets hit and his plane stalls.
Man, and they're
going through the checklist. And dude, this is another moment. It's like, man, I can't imagine being in that situation. I love that it's there because it's something they have to do. Right. Getting
rid of all your ordnance.
To a lesser, different extent. I've been trained, if something happens, you have to destroy your equipment so that the enemy doesn't get hold of it.
Yeah.
And so going through the checklist together while they're and he's just that moment when he's drops everything and they're like, yep, that's it. And he was like, hey man, you went all 30 yards or whatever. At the end when he's just right before he crashed and as he kind of dips out because he's going too slow.
You went the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. And I was just like, damn, dude.
Bro, it was so freaking emotional.
Yeah.
Can you imagine flying next to one of your best friends, knowing that his plane is going down?
Looking at each other because he, part of it is opening up the cockpit because you got to be ready for the crash landing and stuff to get out. And just sitting there I don't even know if this is the last time I'm seeing you or not.
Or not. Yeah, because could die
once
you're
on the ground, it's a real quick race to just getting out of there. Otherwise, the enemy is going to be right on top of you.
Yeah, it was super sad. Really sad. Too much sad.
Yeah,
too sad.
Yeah, it gets real sad.
Don't like it. Yeah, the whole time during the last 10 minutes of the movie, to my left, I just hear.
Yeah.
I could tell she was trying to hold it in and try to be strong, but the whole time it was just.
Yeah.
I was just like, I feel
this
it.
is the same for me. I was like,
Yeah.
it's like I feel you.
The whole time I was doing the fast blinking.
I'm not crying.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you guys thought of Devotion and the story it told, and hopefully you guys learned something new, and hopefully you guys were exposed to who Jesse Brown was and his story for the first time, just like we were. And if you guys have any thoughts or anything you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Thank you guys for all the love and support. Please like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. Check us out on social media, any kind of media cast on Instagram and Twitter, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.
Bye, guys.